The restaurant was 3 minutes from closing when the black car pulled up. Nadia Osei saw it through the front window. Long, dark, the kind of car that does not park. It arrives. Two men got out first, scanned the street like they were reading a threat assessment, then opened the back door. The man who stepped out was tall, sharp suit, face like something carved out of cold stone. He did not look at the restaurant sign. He did not check his phone. He walked in like he had already decided the place was beneath him and came anyway. Nadia was 26 years old, and she had been working the Thursday night shift at Bella Sera for 2 years. She knew the difference between a difficult customer and a dangerous one. This man was both. She picked up her order pad. The manager, Patrick, a nervous little man with a habit of pulling at his collar, materialized beside her. "Table 9, he whispered. "You take it. It is 5 minutes to close." "I know. Take it." She walked over. The man sat with his back to the wall. Always the back to the wall with men like this, she had noticed. And the two others sat at a separate table nearby, not eating, not talking, just watching the room, the way guard dogs watch a yard. Nadia stopped at table 9. She pulled her pen. "Good evening. Can I start you with something to drink?" He did not look up from his phone. His thumb moved across the screen once. Then he set it face down and picked up the menu. He read it the way someone reads a document they already know contains bad news. "Water," he said. "Still or sparkling?" "Still." She wrote it down. "Are you ready to order, or would you like a few minutes?" He looked at the menu for another 3 seconds. The lamb, no rosemary, side of roasted potatoes, not mashed. "Of course," she wrote it. "Anything else?" He looked up then. It was the first time his eyes met hers, and she held steady, because she had learned a long time ago that the moment you look away is the moment something is decided about you that you did not agree to. His eyes moved, not quickly, deliberately, down and back up. The table went very quiet. "Is there another server?" he said. Her pen stopped. "I'm sorry?" "Another server." He said it with total calm, total flatness, like it was a completely reasonable logistical question. "Someone else. I am the server assigned to this section." "I understand that." A pause. "I am asking if there is someone thinner." The air in the room did something strange. Nadia heard Patrick 3 feet behind her stop breathing. She did not move. She did not look away. She did not let her face do anything that she had not decided it should do. Then she smiled. Not the big warm customer service smile she had practiced since she was 19. Something quieter. Something she had built in a hallway at 12 years old, when a boy said something about her body, and she realized that the face you show the world in that moment is the only thing that belongs entirely to you. "Let me check," she said. She walked back to the kitchen. She did not look at Patrick. She did not look at any of the other staff, who had all very carefully found things to do with their hands. She stood by the pass-through and counted to 5. Her colleague Priya appeared beside her. Priya was 23, a size 4, with dark eyes and a perfectly kind heart. "Table 9, Nadia said. "Can you take it?" Priya looked at her. She had heard. Everyone had heard. "Nadia? It is fine. I just need you to take it." Priya took it. Nadia went to the back, refilled 2 water pitchers that did not need refilling, and then she stood at the small sink by the dry storage room and looked at the wall. She was not going to cry. She had made that decision in the dining room, and it held. What she felt instead was something harder than sadness. Something that sat in her chest like a stone that had been there long enough to feel familiar. She knew this stone. She had been carrying it since she was a child, since her first day at a new school in a new country, since the first time a doctor looked at her body like it was a problem before she had said a single word, since the first boy who kissed her in secret and pretended not to know her in the hallway. The stone was not grief. It was not anger. It was knowledge. The particular, exhausting knowledge of what it means to move through a world that has already decided what you are worth before you open your mouth. She straightened her apron. She walked back out. She served the other 4 tables, cleared glasses, ran the end-of-night checklist, cashed out her register. When the man at table 9 stood to leave, she was behind the counter, and she did not look at him. He did not look at her either. The black car came back. It swallowed him. It disappeared. Patrick appeared at her elbow. Nadia, I want to apologize for what... It is fine, Patrick. It is not fine. What he said was completely... I know what it was. She picked up her bag. Good night. She drove home through streets that were empty and orange under the streetlights. Her apartment was small and warm and smelled like the jollof rice she had made on Sunday and was still working through. She stood over the stove and ate it cold, straight from the container, because she had been on her feet for 8 hours and did not have the energy to pretend that dinner needed to be a ritual. She thought about the man's face. Not the cruelty. She had seen cruelty before, in smaller packages and larger ones, and she had learned to file it away. What stayed with her was something else. The certainty of him. The absolute, unquestioned certainty. Like he had gone through his entire life without a single moment of self-doubt. Like the idea of being wrong had simply never occurred to him as a possibility. She ate the last of the rice. She washed the container. She opened her laptop and stared at the business finance assignment that was due on Friday for another 40 minutes before she finally went to bed. She lay in the dark and she thought, I will not remember him in a year. She was wrong about that. But she did not know it yet. She fell asleep with the stone still in her chest, the same weight it had always been. No heavier and no lighter. Like a thing she had made her peace with so long ago she had stopped noticing it was there. Outside, the city went on without her. Cars passed. Someone laughed on the street below. A door closed somewhere in the building. Nadia Osei slept. And in the morning she got up, made tea, ironed her uniform, and went back to work. Because that is what she did. That is what she had always done. And nobody, not one person in that restaurant, not the manager who should have said something and didn't, not the colleague who took the table, not the 2 men who sat at the side and watched. Nobody knew what the smile had cost her. She had made sure of that. She was very good at making sure of that. 3 days later, the photo appeared. Nadia was not looking for it. She was on her lunch break, eating a sandwich at the small table in the break room, her phone open to a news site she checked out of habit more than interest. A headline. A gala. A fundraiser for something she did not read closely enough to remember. And there, slightly left of center in the photograph, was the man from table 9. She put down her sandwich. He was wearing a different suit in the photo but carried the same quality of stillness that had made the whole restaurant quiet when he walked in. Around him stood men with glasses of something gold, and women who looked like they had been assembled by a committee. He was not smiling. He was barely even present in the frame, in a way. Like he had agreed to be photographed the way you agree to a minor inconvenience. She looked at the caption. Alexei Volkov, Chief Executive of Volkov Maritime Holdings, at the annual Port Authority benefit dinner. She typed the name. She knew this was not a good use of her lunch break. She knew that whatever she found was not going to make her feel better. She searched anyway, the way you press on a bruise, not to heal it, just to understand its edges. What came up was not a small man. Alexei Volkov was 41 years old. He had built, or inherited and then massively expanded, the sources disagreed, a shipping company out of Odessa, Ukraine, that now operated across 14 countries. His fleet moved cargo through 3 oceans. His name appeared in the financial press with the kind of regularity that meant either extreme success or extreme controversy, and in his case it appeared to be both at once. There were 3 separate legal investigations mentioned across different articles. One in Germany, one filed through an international trade body she had never heard of, one in the United States, federal level, relating to the movement of goods through intermediary companies. All 3 had been closed. Not resolved, closed. There was a difference, and the articles danced around it with the careful language of journalists who understood exactly what they were not saying. She read for 20 minutes. She read about the shipping routes and the closed cases, and the photographs at important dinners. She read a profile from a business magazine 3 years old that described him with words like disciplined and exacting, and not a man who tolerates inefficiency, which she understood were polite ways of saying something more accurate. She found no personal information, no family mentioned, no hometown that anyone had successfully confirmed. He gave no interviews. He appeared at events when it served a purpose and disappeared when it did not. The closest thing to a personal detail she found was a single quote in a business publication, attributed to a former colleague, that said, "Alexei does not make decisions emotionally. He does not make decisions socially. He makes decisions correctly, and he expects everyone around him to do the same." She put her phone down. She finished her sandwich. Correct. That was the word she kept coming back to. Not kind, not decent, not fair. Correct. Like the world was a set of calculations, and people were variables in them, and the only question worth asking was whether they were useful variables or not. She had been assessed at table 9 and found to be the wrong variable. She thought about that, sitting in the break room with the fluorescent light humming above her, and the smell of someone else's reheated food in the air. She thought about the way he had looked at her, the total absence of embarrassment in it. Not malice exactly. Malice required caring about the person enough to want to hurt them. What he had shown was something colder, indifference with criteria. She thought about her mother, who had carried twice her own weight in struggle across an ocean, and still stood straight. She thought about the women in her family who had built things with their hands and their savings, and their refusal to accept what other people decided their ceiling was. She thought about her business plan, sitting in a folder on her laptop, 7 drafts in, and still not perfect. She picked up her phone again, not to look at Alexei Volkov, to open the business finance assignment she had been ignoring for 2 days. She worked on it for the rest of her lunch break. She did not think about him again that afternoon. She thought about him that night, briefly, the way you think about a splinter you cannot quite reach, not painful enough to stop everything, present enough to be annoying. By Friday, she had filed the assignment and mostly stopped thinking about him. By the following Tuesday, she was almost certain she had forgotten him entirely. She had not. She realized this when she walked into Bella Sera on Thursday evening, and Patrick met her at the door with the expression of a man carrying news he would prefer not to carry. "Table 9 has a reservation," he said. She looked at him. "He called ahead," Patrick said. "He asked for the section. He asked." Patrick stopped, pulled at his collar. "He asked specifically, the Thursday section." She understood what that meant. She hung up her bag. She tied her apron. "All right," she said. Patrick looked relieved and guilty at the same time. "Nadia, if you want me to reassign—" "I said all right, Patrick." She walked out onto the floor. And she waited. The black car came at 7:43. She watched it through the window the same way she had watched it the first time, but with different information now. She knew the name on the car, in a manner of speaking. She knew the weight of it. He came in. Same 2 men at the edge of the room. Same back-to-the-wall seat. He looked at her when she approached, and this time he did not look away to his phone first. He looked at her directly, and something in his face was doing the slow work of rearranging itself. Not guilt. Nothing so warm as guilt. Something more like a man who has looked at a spreadsheet and found an error he did not expect. "Good evening," she said. "Still water?" "Yes." She wrote it. "The lamb again," he said. "Same preparation." "Of course." She turned to go. "Wait." She turned back. She kept her face even. He looked at her for a moment. His jaw moved slightly, like he was deciding whether to say something or swallow it back down. He swallowed it. "That is all," he said. She nodded and walked away. In the kitchen, the line cook, a young man named Eddie who had been at Bella Sera longer than anyone and observed everything quietly, looked up from the stove. "Same guy?" he said. "Same order," she said. "You okay?" "I am always okay, Eddie." He looked at her for one more second, then turned back to the stove. She was not always okay, but she was skilled at being okay enough, which is a different thing, and most days it was sufficient. She brought the water. She brought the food. She checked back once. She refilled his water once without being asked, which was simply good service, and had nothing to do with him specifically. When she brought the bill, he took it without looking at it. He opened it, signed something, closed it, and handed it back. "You are a good server," he said. She took the check holder. "I know," she said. She walked away. In the holder was a tip that was 4 times the cost of the meal. She stared at it in the kitchen. Eddie looked over. She showed him. He raised his eyebrows. "Guilt money," he said. She thought about that. Maybe it was, but it was also rent. and the third installment of her business plan registration fee, and the specific freedom of not having to decide, this month, which bill waited another week. She put it in her apron pocket. She thought about it the whole drive home. Not the amount, the gesture. The fact that he had come back at all, the fact that he had asked for her section, the fact that he had looked at her and started to say something and decided against it. Men like Alexei Volkov, the articles had made clear, did not often decide against things. They decided for things, and the things happened. The not deciding was new. The not deciding was something. She did not know what to do with that. She made tea. She opened her laptop. She stared at draft 8 of the business plan. She thought, he is going to come back again. She was right. He came back the following Thursday. And the Thursday after that. He always ordered the same thing. He always sat the same way. He always tipped the same amount. 4 times the bill. To the cent. Like it was a calculated figure he had arrived at and did not intend to revisit. And each time he looked at her, the rearranging in his face went a little further. She watched it happen, and she did not let herself decide what it meant, because deciding what it meant would require her to have a feeling about it, and she was not ready to have a feeling about Alexei Volkov. She was, however, paying attention. She was always paying attention. That had never once led her wrong. The 4th Thursday he spoke to her. Not about the order, not about the bill. He waited until she had cleared the main course, and then, when she came back with the small card that said the kitchen was closed but they had 2 desserts remaining, he looked up and said, "Where are you from?" She paused. She considered the question. It was the kind of question she had been asked her entire life in a certain tone, meaning, "You do not look like you are from here. Explain yourself." This was not that tone. She could not identify his tone precisely, which was unusual for her. She was generally very good at identifying tones. "Ghana," she said, "originally." He nodded. Slow, like he was filing it. "I have never been," he said. "Most people have not." A pause. Not an uncomfortable one. She was surprised by that. "You have been here long?" he asked. "Since I was 9. Another nod. His water glass was empty. She refilled it without thinking. He watched her do it. "You are studying," he said. Not a question. She looked at him. "You carry a bag that is too heavy for this job," he said. "And when you are not serving, you read. I have seen you through the window." She considered that. The idea that he had been watching her through the window before he came in was something she did not want to assign meaning to before she understood it better. "Business degree," she said. "Final year." Something moved in his face. Not quite a smile. A recognition. "What kind of business?" "Import. Textiles. My mother's family has suppliers in Accra. I want to build the distribution side here." She did not know why she told him that. She told almost no one that. It felt like walking around with your most valuable thing in your hands, and she had learned to keep valuable things protected. He looked at her for a long moment. "That is not small," he said. "No," she said. "It is not." She put the dessert card on the table and walked away, and her heart was doing something inconvenient, and she refused to investigate it. She got home that night and pulled up draft 8 of the business plan and read it from the beginning for the first time in 2 weeks. She fixed 3 things. She started a note for a 4th. She did not think about Alexei Volkov. She lied to herself fluently and with great practice. He was there again the following week, and the week after, and the week after that. Each time the conversation went a little further than the last, like 2 people testing ice with each step revealing the ice held, each step making the next one slightly less frightening. He told her almost nothing about himself. She noticed this. He asked questions and he listened, which was unexpected in a man who, by every account she had read, considered most conversations a transaction to be completed efficiently. He listened to her the way someone listens when they are trying to understand something, not simply waiting for their turn to speak. She started looking forward to Thursdays. She caught herself doing it and was immediately suspicious of herself. Her colleague Dev, who worked the bar and saw everything from his angle behind the counter, came to her one evening, during a slow moment with the expression of a man delivering news he finds entertaining. "The Russian," he said. He is interested. He is a customer, she said. He has been coming here for 6 weeks. He tips you 4 times the bill. He does not tip Priya at all when she fills in. She had not known that. She kept her face from reacting. He watches you when you are across the room, Dev continued, not in a strange way, in the way of a man who is trying to figure something out. Dev, I am simply reporting what I observe. Report it somewhere else. Dev went back to the bar, smiling. She carried glasses to the back, and she thought, Alexei Volkov is not a man who wants what I think he might want. Men like him want things that fit their world. She had read enough about his world to know she did not fit it by any obvious measurement. She was not young in the way his world required. She was not quiet. She was not something that could be arranged to look a certain way for a photograph. She was a woman who carried a heavy bag and ate cold rice and had 7 drafts of a business plan and a stone in her chest that had been there so long it was structural. She told herself this clearly and specifically. It helped for about 4 days. Then he came back. I would like to take you to dinner, he said, when she brought the bill. She stood still. Somewhere else, he added, as if that needed clarifying. She looked at him. His face was as composed as it always was, but she had been watching it for 6 weeks, and she could see, in the very small muscles near his jaw, that this cost him something. Men like Alexei Volkov, she had concluded, were not accustomed to not knowing the answer before they asked the question. He did not know this answer. She thought about the first night, the words, the precise and casual cruelty of them. You told me to find a thinner server, she said. He did not look away. I know, he said. She waited for more. It did not come. That is all you have? She said. I do not explain myself, he said. No, she said. You really do not. She picked up the check holder and she walked away, and she finished her shift, and she drove home, and she sat in her car, outside her building for 6 full minutes, without getting out. She thought about the stone in her chest. She thought about the way he had said I know, not quickly, not with charm, not with the automatic smoothness of a man who had practiced the apology, slowly, flatly, like a man putting something on a table that he would rather not put down but understood was owed. She thought about the business plan. She thought about her mother. She went upstairs and made tea and went to bed. And the following Thursday, when he walked in and sat down, and she brought the water, and he looked at her, with that face that was always in the process of rearranging itself around her, she said, Friday evening, 7 o'clock. You choose the place, and you tell me by tomorrow. He nodded once. All right, he said. She went back to work. She did not tell Dev. She did not need to. When she passed the bar 20 minutes later, he was already smiling. He chose a restaurant nothing like Bella Sera. It was quiet in the way that only very expensive places are quiet, not empty, but considered. Every surface and sound had been thought about. The kind of place where the lighting was warm on purpose, where the chairs were comfortable by design, where the whole room had been built around the idea that the people in it should feel at ease. Nadia had dressed carefully, not because she wanted to impress Alexei Volkov, because she wanted to be able to look at herself in whatever mirror appeared that evening, and know she had made a choice that was hers. She wore deep green. She wore earrings her mother had sent from Accra. She wore shoes that hurt slightly and were worth it. He was already at the table when she arrived. He stood when he saw her. She had not expected that. She sat down. You are punctual, he said. I believe in it, she said. You chose well. This is a good restaurant. I know the owner. She almost smiled. Of course you do. The first 20 minutes were careful. She asked questions. He answered them more than she expected, though always with that quality of a man, measuring out information in precise, considered portions. He talked about shipping, not the legal edges of it, not the parts the articles had circled, the logistics of it, the mathematics of moving weight across water efficiently. He talked about it the way she talked about supply chains, with the attention of someone who genuinely found the problem interesting, not just profitable. She found herself talking back, not performing interest, actually interested. He watched her speak the way she had noticed him watching her across the restaurant floor, with focus, like he was solving something. Your plan, he said, between courses. The import business. You said you have the supply side. My mother's contacts, yes. What is the obstacle? She looked at him. The registration fees, the first warehouse lease, the licenses for the first import shipment. A pause. It is not an impossible amount, but it is not nothing. He nodded slowly. I have 7 drafts of the plan, she said. It is good. It is a good plan. I just need... She stopped. Time, he said. And money. Yes. He said nothing for a moment. He turned his water glass once on the table. Just once. I would like to read it, he said. She looked at him carefully. Why? Because you said it is good. A pause. You do not say things lightly. If you say it is good, it is worth reading. Something shifted in her chest. Not the stone, something beside it. She said, this is a dinner, not a business meeting. It can be both. It cannot, she said. Not tonight. He looked at her. Something in his face did the slow rearranging again. All right, he said. They talked about other things. He asked about Ghana. Real questions, not polite ones. She told him about the city, about the market her grandmother had run for 30 years, about the smell of the street food in the morning, and the specific quality of the light in the late afternoon, when the heat finally starts to ease. He listened. She talked more than she had planned to. She noticed this, and did not stop. By the time the evening ended, she was standing outside the restaurant in the cool air, and he was beside her, and she was aware that the evening had been something. She was not yet willing to name what. He said, I would like to see you again. She said, I know. She took a cab home. She sat in the back and looked at the city going past, and she thought about his face. Not the cruelty of the first night. She kept waiting for it to be the primary thing in her mind, and it kept not being. What was primary was the focus. The way he looked at her like she was a thing worth understanding. She was 40 pages into understanding him, and she already knew it was a long book. She texted her friend Caroline that night. Caroline was her oldest friend in this country, the one she had met at 11 years old on the first week of school, the one who had sat beside her on the bus and said, I like your bag, which was a small thing, and also the kindest thing anyone had said to her in 3 weeks. She texted, I went on a date. Caroline called her immediately. They talked for an hour. Nadia told her everything, starting from the first night. The words at table 9, the smile she had closed her face around, the 6 weeks of Thursdays, the dinner. Caroline was quiet for a moment when she finished. Then she said, Do you like him? Nadia sat with the question. I do not know, she said. I do not know who he is yet. But you want to find out? She looked at the ceiling of her apartment. The stone in her chest was still there. It was always there, but something beside it was warm. Yes, she said. I think I do. Caroline said. Then find out. You are allowed to find out. She slept better that night than she had in a while. She did not ask herself why. She already knew. She finished the business degree on a Tuesday in November, in a hall that smelled like old wood and good ambition, and nobody from her family was in the seats because her mother was in Accra, and the flight cost more than a month of shifts at Bella Sarah. But Caroline was there, and Dev, who had taken the afternoon off without being asked, and Eddie, the line cook, who had never attended anything more formal than a staff meeting and arrived in a tie that was slightly too short and absolutely sincere. She walked across the stage and accepted the certificate and shook the hand of the Dean of the Faculty of Business and Commerce. And she thought, 7 years. She had started this degree 7 years ago, interrupted it twice, transferred credits once, and worked every Thursday and Friday and Saturday night for the last 4 of those years to pay for it. She held the certificate in 2 hands. She thought about the stone in her chest. It was still there. It would probably always be there, but it was not all there was. Alexei was not in the hall. She had not told him about the graduation. She had not decided why, exactly. Maybe because she did not yet know what box to put him in. He did not fit the boxes she had built, and she was not ready to build a new one. Maybe because the thing between them was still new in the way that new things are both exciting and fragile, and she did not want to hand him something as large as 7 years of work, and watch him not know what to do with it. Maybe because some things belong to yourself first. She went to dinner with Caroline and Dev and Eddie afterward. They ate at a small place near the university that had very good soup and very bad lighting, and it was perfect. Dev gave a toast that was too long and extremely genuine. Caroline cried, which she had predicted, and had tissues ready for. Eddie said nothing but refilled everyone's water all evening, which was his way of saying everything. She got home at 11. She found a card under her apartment door. A paper envelope, cream-colored, no stamp. Just her name on the front in handwriting that was angular and controlled. She opened it. Inside was a card with nothing printed on it. Just blank, good paper, and written on it in the same angular hand, "I heard you finished, well done." Below that, a number she already had in her phone. She stood in the hallway and read it twice. She had not told him about the graduation, but Caroline had met him once, briefly, 3 weeks ago at a restaurant where they had all unexpectedly crossed paths. She had suspected then that Caroline and Alexei had exchanged numbers. She had not asked because she was not sure she wanted the answer. She went inside. She made tea. She sat at the table where her laptop was open to draft 9 of the business plan, which was now also final draft 1. She called him. He picked up on the second ring. "You were not there," she said. "You did not tell me," he said. "No." A pause. "How does it feel?" he said. She thought about it honestly. "Like the end of one thing and the beginning of something I am not quite ready for. That is what all important things feel like," he said. She looked at the business plan on her screen. "I am ready to let you read it," she said. The plan. A silence. Not long. The kind of silence that contains a decision. "Send it tonight," he said. She did. He called her at 2 in the morning. She was asleep. She picked up anyway. "It is good," he said. "I told you it was." The third-party logistics section, page 11. The numbers are conservative. "On purpose," she said, sitting up. "I would rather underproject and overdeliver." "That is correct," he said. "It is also the reason most small import operations fail in the first 2 years. They build the optimistic version." She was fully awake now. "Go on." They talked until 4 in the morning about supply chain margins and warehouse lease structures and the specific licenses required for textile imports from West Africa. He knew things she did not know. She knew things he did not know. The supplier relationships, the cultural intelligence of the market, the community networks on both ends. They talked like two people who had each been holding half of a map. At 4:15 she said, "Why are you doing this?" A pause. "Because it is a good plan," he said, "and it will be better with the right support." That is not a complete answer. Another pause. Longer. "No," he said, "it is not." She waited. "You are not someone who needs saving," he said. "I understand that. I am not offering to save you. I am offering to be useful. Those are different things." She thought about that for a long time. She thought about the stone in her chest. She thought about the way she had built her whole life around not needing anyone to reach down and pull her up, because the people who reach down and pull you up often have opinions about where you should stand afterward. She thought about his face, and the rearranging that happened in it, and the way he said, "I know," when she had confronted him about the first night. Not smoothly, not easily, like putting something down that was heavy. She thought about draft 9, which was also final draft 1, which was 7 years of work, and a mother's contacts, and a grandmother's market, and all the specific weight of wanting to build something that was entirely and permanently hers. "I will think about it," she said. "That is enough," he said. They said goodnight. She lay back in the dark, and she looked at the ceiling, and she thought about what being useful meant. About the difference between someone standing beside you because they wanted something from the view, and someone standing beside you because they had looked at the view and understood, finally, what it was worth. She was not certain yet which one he was, but she was starting to think she knew. She fell asleep with that thought, and it was warmer than the stone, and it was hers, and she held it carefully, the way you hold something you have not yet decided to trust, but cannot quite bring yourself to put down. In 3 months she would sign the first lease. In 5 months, the first shipment would clear customs. In 7 months, she would have her first wholesale client, a small chain of boutiques in 3 cities, that had been looking for exactly the quality of fabric that her grandmother's suppliers produced. In none of those months would she stop being Nadia Osei, who carried a heavy bag and worked Thursday nights, and had a stone in her chest and a smile she had built in a hallway at 12 years old, to keep the world from seeing what was behind it. But the world behind it was growing, quietly, steadily, on her own terms. And the man who had once looked at her like she was the wrong variable was learning, slowly, imperfectly, with the difficulty of someone who had never had to learn anything this way before, that he had made the most expensive miscalculation of his life at table 9, in a restaurant called Bella Sera, on a Thursday evening, when she brought him his water, and he looked up and found her already looking back. She never brought it up again. She did not need to. He carried it himself, which was the right place for it to be. And she carried the business, which was exactly where it belonged. Some things in life do not resolve the way stories are supposed to. They do not tie up cleanly. They do not arrive at a moment where everything that was wrong becomes right, and everything that hurt stops hurting. But sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the person who handed you the wound also ends up being the one standing beside you when you build the thing that proves the wound was never the whole story. She had not forgiven him in a ceremony. There was no moment she could point to. Forgiveness, she had decided, was not an event. It was a choice you made quietly, for yourself, because carrying the weight of someone else's worst moment costs you more than it costs them. She had let it go the way she let go of many things, not because it did not matter, but because she had decided that what came next mattered more. The business grew. She grew. And every Thursday evening, when the black car pulled up outside whichever restaurant they were at, she sat with her tea or her water or whatever she had ordered first, and she watched him walk in, and she thought, "He will never once in his life be the easiest thing I have ever done." She smiled. Not the closed-door smile. The other one. The one she did not build for anyone's benefit. The one that had no purpose except that she felt it. He sat down across from her and looked at her the way he always looked at her now, like someone trying to solve something they had already decided was worth the effort. "You are in a good mood," he said. "I am always in a good mood," she said. He looked at her. He almost smiled. "No," he said. "You are not." "No," she agreed. "I am not. But tonight, I am." He picked up the menu. She watched him read it. Outside, the city moved. Cars and people and the low sound of a world that kept going, whether you were ready or not. She had been in that current her whole life, swimming steadily, carrying the stone, carrying the bag, carrying the plan, carrying the smile. She was still carrying all of it. But tonight the stone felt light. Just tonight. That was enough.